everybody. Welcome to Podtacular, the unofficial Halo Universe podcast. I'm your host, Duststorm.
And I'm your co-host, Godzilla T.
I'm some other guy.
You're not just some other guy.
You're more important than that.
It's Toa Freak, for those who don't know. Hey, and we're back for episode 4 of Hunt the Truth. Moving right along, we got 2 more.
And there was much rejoicing.
Yay! Yay!
And I'm glad to see you put your dinner up on the stream there.
Last week, eating during the stream, I want to share with the good people, exactly what they're hearing.
Yeah.
I mean, who doesn't love a bunch of eyes?
I didn't really think about that until now.
Whatever the hell that pink thing is.
I don't want to know.
It's good, though.
Tell you what, guys, if you're listening to the recorded version of this, it's probably better.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right now, well, what we've been doing for most of the episodes for Hunt the Truth is whenever they have the little image specific that kind of goes with the episode, we put that as a background. So this week's is somewhat, I guess, disturbing of appetite to come to think of it. So they put up a picture of supposedly what the Kig-Yar are eating whenever Mai goes past in the little feeding rings. So it's definitely a little disturbing, very exotic.
At least it's not
this
the
would be something
animated
that
one.
I haven't seen the animated one yet, but this is something where I instantly think of the Unzen from Vic. This would kind of be it, in my opinion. So I don't know if this is partly inspired by him or what, but it's definitely a little unsettling, and I would not recommend eating during this live stream if you're watching us live.
If you do, you have a strong stomach.
Yeah, that too. So we are here to talk about episode 4 of Hunt the Truth, and we also had a little bit of a tease a little bit earlier this week as well. The Experience Halo 5 that's over on Xbox.com right now, which is also tied to the Hunt the Truth campaign a little bit. There's a little bit of back and forth going between, obviously, Master Chief and Spartan Locke. So there's the whole side of Chief is off having his own mission, his own things that he's supposed to be, that he thinks he needs to do. And Oni is more of the opinion of Chief has gone AWOL, need to take him down. And that's where Locke is basically hunting a traitor. So definitely recommend you guys go check it out. I think it's a very long URL. I think it's experience-halo-5.xbox.com, something like that. But we put a tweet out about it, and we'll put up a blog post here. And actually, by the time you're listening to this, a blog post will already be up. And if you go through and watch all the videos, you can actually get a BR skin rec pack at the very end. So you get a little 25 character code, and you can redeem that for day 1. You'll have the rec, and you can unlock it in Halo 5. So definitely, if you're looking for some quick and easy recs, that's definitely one way to go get it. And again, we'll have the link up in a blog post here pretty soon. If not, you can Google it, and it's been everywhere on the Halo Twitter. We've tweeted it. We've posted it on Facebook. So you can find it if it's out there. And again, it's just a simple BR skin. You get a code for it, and they are about 11, 12-second videos a piece. There's 10 of them. There's 5 for Master Chief. There's 5 for Agent Locke. And it just is continuing the evolution of this whole Hunt the Truth, Blue Team versus Fireteam Osiris, Chief versus Oni kind of thing that they've been really enforcing for the past few months now.
Yep.
They're really fun little short videos.
They
really are.
There's some pretty profound things in there too.
Just be careful. There are some could almost consider spoiler-esque, depending on your point of view, but it's all in interpretation. So
yeah, there's definitely some things in there where you could either side with Team Chief or side with Team Locke, depending on what they say. Yeah. Obviously, the game will tell the ultimate story of whatever the truth actually is. So we'll find that out in 2 weeks. As of this recording, we have 2 more weeks until Halo 5. It's so close. I can't believe it's already this close. It's just, that's nuts. to me.
My Halo stuff has already started to arrive. Yay!
I know. I got my controller already.
I just picked mine up today.
Supposedly, if everything gets shipped right, I will get the console a week from today.
Same here.
I canceled my
Likewise.
Amazon order and got the Microsoft Store order because they actually have the exclusive pins on the Microsoft Store order. So I'm assuming that'll be actually shipped on time. So hoping that comes on Tuesday next week. We shall see.
Well, see, I left mine with Amazon because I want to help Podtacular.
Yeah, that's true too. But I kind of want the pins. Those are physical things that you can't get any other time. So that's I'm like, yeah, I kind of want the physical goods too. Because if that's the only time I'm going to be able to get them, then I might as well compromise and go for it. Well, and actually,
you doing it, it's kind of like you paying yourself. So I'm okay.
Yeah, I actually can't contribute to Podtacular in that means because I'm the account holder. So I can't. I don't have any benefit from using it on myself.
It's kind of like taking it out of the left pocket and putting it in the right pocket?
Pretty much.
Yeah, they generally don't like that.
Nah, not really. So we do have a couple other things that we'll talk about a little bit later on that has come out. Obviously, there's been a lot of Forge news and a lot of other news that's come out regarding the playlists and a couple other things that have been made newsworthy. We'll talk about those on Thursday, which will actually be our last light discussion. We've been putting that off for a little while, and we're finally going to be doing it on Thursday this week. So if you're listening to us live, then get ready for Thursday. Make sure you have read because it will be spoiler filled. If not, then make sure you wait until you finish reading to listen to the episode. So a little bit preview of what's to come. But let's go ahead and dive right into episode 4 of this season 2. So picking up where we left off last time, Maya, Bostwick, and Mashak were trying to escape from her safe house that was being raided by Oni, and then they got stopped by Jackals, which is a lot worse than Oni because they eat people. And my mind is still kind of recovering.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, my mind is still recovering from what Crash said last week. So yeah, thank you for that. But we have it after they've been their ship has been brought onto the Covenant ship, the Jackal ship, and they're being escorted down a couple different hallways on the ship. But before we really get diving into what's happening on the ship, Maya goes back and tells a little story of her asking her father one time what the worst smell in the galaxy was. This is a really weird thing to start off an episode with, but it makes sense as we actually get further down the line. So she asks her father this one day, and he answers her that one of the worst smell that he's ever smelled is a livestock colony where they have cattle just packed up against each other so much that the machines that took care of business were actually rolling atop the cattle because they were so packed in together. And it was one of these manufacturing or food distribution plants that they touted the whole non-synthetic, totally organic, kind of like the all-natural stuff that you see today type stuff.
Yeah, I kind of thought that as like a jab at that sort of thing a little bit. maybe
I didn't think about it that way. Actually, I didn't.
I don't know. That's the way I heard it because to some degree, there's not going too far off topic. There's merit to that, but on the other hand, there's not a whole lot of science behind it. So who knows?
Well, there's a lot of films and documentaries out there talking about the mistreatment of animals before they're killed for
that's
food and
what it
whatnot.
comes down to is the mistreatment of animals.
Right, animal cruelty and all that stuff. Yep.
I'm just talking purely on like nutritional standards there, but anyway, off topic.
Yeah. Well, I mean, to the whole point, I think whenever I think of something like this, it's more along the lines of animal cruelty for like the mass-produced stuff. And whenever the whole non-synthetic, purely organic stuff crops up, I think of the whole natural farmed raised where it's they're not just like run through machine after machine, and it's not completely just bulk processing of animal. So something that's not quite as bad. So the whole thing about being non-synthetic or organic be related to most practices of today, which is concerned with like the mass production. Is it just like we've gotten so far in advance to where the, I guess, atrocities of animal cruelty now are the standard for like organic and non-violent or whatever? I don't know.
Yeah, it's something very weird to think about, that how much everything's kind of shifted. Like, is there now a place in that universe that is like can advertise non-utterly terrible treatment of animals plus organic plus natural farm grazed or whatever?
Anyways, after having the whole story behind the worst smell in the world, Maya goes on to say, unfortunately, that was not the worst smell. And that's when we actually transition to present day, where she's being escorted along the Kig-Yar ship, and just the smell on the pirate ship was just horrible.
Well, let's correct this. Not escorted, dragged.
Yep, through soot, blood, and guano.
Yep.
And being a ship that's completely occupied by jackals, and as we'll find out later, kind of a feeding ground and just really messed up stuff. I would imagine the whole ship was probably pretty rank. Man, I'm surprised they just didn't pass out from the smell.
When there is so much stuff, we'll say waste, that the walls start looking like caves, it's bad.
Yeah.
And the nice thing is, the whole time they're talking and they're being dragged through the ship, you have this sliding slurpy sound, which just kind of adds the little ambience.
Yeah.
Where you almost start smelling the stuff.
I said to you guys earlier, I actually gagged at one point. I usually got a pretty strong stomach, but I had like a brief moment of like, like, oh God.
At which part? Because there were definitely a few of those parts. I don't think I ever got to a gag reflex personally.
I honestly don't remember, but it's like, yeah, I've been in a cave, in a bat cave, where it's not all that pleasant. I've been on animal farms. But dear God, I cannot imagine that much guano and blood and God knows what else. And then the jackal soup, of course. Smell-o-vision. Yeah, there you go.
This is one time I'm glad they don't have smell-o-vision.
Yeah.
We all are.
Especially with the animated graphic, that would just probably put some people over the edge. Did I almost make you kind of vomit in your mouth a little bit?
Like I said, I usually have a pretty strong stomach. So.
We are not responsible for any vomiting or expulsion of fluids during this podcast.
If you blow chunks, it's your fault, not ours.
Exactly. We are not liable. So for the most part, with them being dragged through the ship, they're being escorted, dragged, whatever, through just this thick muck that is soot, blood, and guano. And while they're being dragged, the leader of the pack that's escorting them turns around for a minute, and Bostwick actually decides to get up and take a swing at one of them. Kind of knocks one off a little bit. She grabs the feathers off the back of one, but the Kig-Yar that she attacked was a little too quick, and by the time that she was kind of snickering that she had the feathers, the jackal went straight up to her and basically scared the living crap out of her. She went from this kind of snarky, hey, look what I got from you, and then when the jackal got in her face, she was like, oh,
and
this is terrifying.
Translation from BB.
Well, yeah, so during that whole exchange, I actually kind of jumped ahead a little bit, but there was a part at the very beginning where Bostwick was an antagonist, like trying to take jabs at the Kig-Yar, and Mashak says a line, "Don't antagonize the bird monster." which I thought was pretty funny.
I thought it was hilarious.
But yeah, so after that, the Jackals are kind of chatting to each other. Maya asks BB to translate, and as it turns out, they're being escorted to the airlock just to be kind of flushed out into space. So they capture the ship, they take them out of their ship, and then they're just going to jettison them into space. Makes a whole lot of sense.
Well, to the Jackal, the only thing of value is the ship.
Right.
But what about that delicious protein?
Apparently humans aren't that tasty.
I guess not.
Not enough to add to the soup.
Brutes love humans.
I don't know if they have any brutes to get to, especially in the condition that they're in, that we'll find out in a little bit.
True.
So after they find out that they're going to the airlock, that's when Bostwick decides to jump one of the Jackals, and that's when she gets the living crap scared out of her. As far as kind of like what was up to do next, Maya goes on to say how when your life flashes before your eyes, it's not really flashing before your eyes. It's more like a mass remembering. And she lists through some memories that she was recalling, stuff that was really important, stuff that was seemingly non-important throughout her life, just these random memories. And she goes on to kind of explain how the memories that she had of Pharaoh were violent and passionate, but the memories that she has as Maya were quiet, secretive, academic, kind of like a little bit more studious, a little bit simpler lifestyle. She went to study xenopsychology and didn't think that it would be something where she would be picked up by Oni as something that would be needed, but she got snatched up for the Covenant War and did a whole lot of logical profiling, psychological profiling on Covenant, including death rituals for elites and Kig-Yar behavior. And
just before we go on, sorry, I just wanted to say, it was like, I love this way of like kind of giving us some backstory on Maya/Pharaoh. It was a really good way to integrate into the. Now we have a much better picture of her life, a little bit more clear picture of how she got into Oni, and maybe even why she was picked for the position why she was picked to be Pharaoh, at least in my opinion. And it's a great way, I think, to kind of explore that without going like something that's a bit too exposition-y, if that makes sense.
No, I get what you're saying. I would think though, for humans, after a while doing xenopsychology, like actually studying other alien races, that humans would probably get boring.
Well, I mean, when you're being attacked by a alien hegemony trying to wipe out your entire race, from what we know of Maya, she would have been born during the Covenant War, at least to some, dependent, and probably like late 2520s to 2530s, probably closer to the other end, but
I'm just thinking with the whole thing after the war that if she was Pharaoh, then like trying to convince a bunch of people, that I guess that would have been just a whole lot easier.
It'd be an interesting concept to think about. What's easier to deal with, aliens or humans?
Right. But yeah, so going on from that, she kind of comes up with this idea to actually kind of challenge the Jackals, because they have a different kind of, well, I guess appropriately put, psychology that they kind of adhere to, being more of a pirates species than a lot of the other Covenant. So she tells BB to directly translate what she said, and she went on to kind of say how they were wasting valuable cargo by throwing them at the airlock, that they were incompetent fools compared to other Jackals that she's met, and how their ship mistress would be just very pissed off if they were to actually throw them out of the airlock. And after all this, during this, BB is like, "Are you sure you want to do this? I don't think this is going to help our situation." But after a few words that she put out, the Kig-Yar that was staring at Bostwick turns around and comes right up towards Maya. And she goes on to describe how the Kig-Yar's face was hot, just reeked of death, and that she didn't move. And it was kind of a dominance thing to see who would blink first.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
It's like the way it is like I almost thought of it as like a very feral kind of thing, very animalistic.
Right.
The idea.
Well, that's exactly what it is. She's challenging for dominance.
Yep.
She explained that during this whole standoff thing that jackals don't pick a fight that they don't think they can win. So while the jackal could have definitely taken her on physically, in his head, Maya was explaining that he was trying to figure out, or she, whoever the Kig-Yar
I think it was a male guard.
Yeah, trying to figure out, okay, like, is this something that should really be considered? Is like, what are the cards that are being dealt here? So he finally decides that they will actually take their prisoners to the ship mistress instead of throwing them at the airlock for now. So for the time being, they're alive, which is good. Maya goes on to say how, as they were being escorted through the rest of the ship, how it was imposing at one point, but after the fall of the prophets, the ship was just in disarray, and she could see just a lot of the different patchwork that was done on the ship, whether it was from scavenging other ships and trying to repair it, or just taking whatever they had on the ship to fix different pieces. Another little thing that she noted, that they didn't really jump to Slipspace yet, so she asked BB to kind of look up some of the details on the ship. BB said the name of the ship was the Dedicatia. And at that point, we hear the ship mistress say, "No, that's a Covenant name. That's not my name for it. It's my ship. I name it." And she goes on to speak in Kig-Yar, and BB translates in a very BB-like fashion. He said that, "Well, the ship mistress would like to officially welcome you on board the Rampant Perdition." And so he says that in this little kind of
snotty way.
Yeah, snarky.
I found it kind of funny too. She's like, "No, that's a Covenant name. I have my own name." And then the name is very Covenant sounding nonetheless.
Well, I think it kind of reflects on the whole pirate mentality of the Jackals, where it's like, you take the ship, it's yours. You make of it what you want.
So I mean, we saw the insurrectionists do that too throughout the whole human insurrection. They would steal ships and rename them something.
Right. So besides that, I think it was Terzal. Is that what she said the name was?
Cherzal, like CH.
Yeah.
Like,
oh, Cherzal? Okay.
Yeah, like,
it's always hard to kind of hear it out in the podcast.
Yeah, no. But the way I heard it was Cherzal. Listening to it a few times at work, so I'm pretty sure about that.
That fits with the pronunciations we've heard in the past.
Should have been Cholvan. No.
But another interesting point to really note here is like the authenticity of actually making it sound like a jackal, and especially a jackal speaking English. It's just really like you get the sense of whenever you hear the jackal speak, kind of like in the screeches and the clicks and whatnot. But whenever Cherzal actually speaks in English, and note that she's the only one that's speaking in English that we hear throughout this whole podcast. So it's definitely one of those things where she probably knows the English just to interact with human. And whenever, I guess, they do trade, because that was one of the things that they actually kind of talked about in the Cole Protocol, was Kig-Yar actually interacting and trading with humans. So I thought it was just really, it seemed very believable that, okay, they're actually speaking English. I mean, it's hard because it's definitely broken English, but you can understand what they're saying.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
I thought that was pretty cool. Just kind of adds to the whole, this is actually happening feel of the podcast.
Yeah. Kept her Cherzal, made her sound, kept her sounding very alien, especially like when she would almost naturally just kind of switch back into Kig-Yar, and then BB would have to start translating. Wonderfully, wonderfully done.
It was really cool to see, or hear, I guess, being a podcast and all. So after the whole thing about it's my ship and the name of the Rampant Perdition, Cherzal tells Maya to speak and basically talk about what value that she has. So obviously the other Kig-Yar relayed the message to Cherzal that she said that she was of value, and she's like, whatever value you have, I will take it now. Maya's like, I don't think you want to pull that tone of voice with me. And then Chirzal, kind of still establishing that dominance of power, she says, it's my ship, you have no power on my ship. So you either give me 60 credits now, or
60,000 credits.
Or sorry, 60,000 credits now, and I need it in 1 hour, or in 1 hour, I will.
Well, what she says is she wants 60,000 credits, and Maya says, let us go back to our ship, and I'll get you to 60,000 credits. And the ship mistress basically says, no, I want the money now. You have 1 hour. After 1 hour, one loses their head. After the next hour, another one loses their head.
Right.
Another hour, you die.
So kind of puts it in an interesting position, because I don't think they really have credits just laying on them.
Yeah. And I don't know how they're going to do that from the brig.
Yeah,
that kind of twists me. Okay, you want the money, but you throw them in the brig. How are they going to get the money?
Exactly. Because that's one of those things where, like, it makes sense that they would go back to the ship to actually go access the credits. Because I'm sure it's something that she probably still has access to.
Yeah.
In some random account that she has. So that it probably wouldn't have been an issue if Chirzal actually let them go back to the ship. At least I would imagine it would not be an issue. But the fact that the ship mistress was like, no, I want this right now. You're going to give it to me now. I'm not going to put up with anything else. Kind of lost out on that bet.
Yeah.
Even if they had the credits or not, still 1 hour per head, that's not a lot of time. And it's basically signing their death away, because there's no way they're going to be able to access the credits. So they're pretty much out of luck. Anyway, so they have 1 hour to live, basically. They get thrown in a prison cell, and the only light that they really have is from the shield that's closing them in there. And they find out that they're not alone.
And I love Mashak's reaction.
Oh, gosh. And this is... Whenever Mashak freaked out, it reminded me so much of Caboose from Red vs. Blue.
Yeah.
So it turns out there was an elite in the corner. And as Maya puts it, out of the 15 different cells that they had on the ship, they got stuck in with an elite.
You know, as soon as I heard Mashak, I almost expected to hear a thump.
Of him running into the wall or something.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I don't think he was probably already on edge at the time they were thrown in the cell, so I don't think something like that would have garnered too much more of a reaction. So I think whenever Maya got into his house, he was totally not expecting it, so he was definitely more of a total freak out instead of just kind of like I'm already freaking out, but here's something else to freak out more about kind of thing.
I don't know, freaking out that there's a 9-foot elite in the cell with you, and they're not exactly known for liking humans.
Yeah.
I think you'd get pretty freaked out really quick, especially Mashak. But anyway.
Well, in this Sangheli too, it wasn't actually trying to attack them, as Maya kind of figures out it wasn't really being threatening. It wasn't trying to agitate anything for any reason, but it was injured. Its leg was all mangled up. It couldn't stand. And it was honestly just trying to get up to talk. He goes on, or Maya kind of asks what happens, and he goes on to use the term Luvukar. I think that's how I heard it. Is that how you heard it?
Or Livru. Shit, I don't remember what I wrote down.
Some of these alien names or the words are interesting.
Yeah.
Really interesting. It's one word, though, that BB is unable to translate. He said it was an ancient word that's not commonly used, so they obviously don't have it translated to anything.
They haven't translated it to Guardian yet.
So I had it written down as Livruka.
Livruka?
Yeah, Livruka, but who knows? It's audio, so we have no idea for sure.
Right. Just need like a list of names whenever the episodes come out. It's like, how do you say these names? Especially for us. The Sangheli tries to explain a little bit more of what actually happened, though. He said it rose from the ground, devastation, and death. And at that point, they kind of figured out that they're actually talking about an anomaly, one of the anomalies that happened on the colonies.
Is they give you one guess what he's talking about.
Yeah. that obviously was a little something that happened recently.
Again, just pausing a moment to comment the production of the show I love how because they can't directly say Guardians, or they can't really directly address what's actually happening because that's all supposed to be classified. But I love the ways they find to bring this stuff up and talk about it and relate it to the events. It's like the anomalies, or in this case, Livruka.
Right. Obviously some kind of ancient word for some foreigner thing that the elites have that we've never encountered before. And really, I guess this is the first time ever that Guardians have been encountered by humans.
Possibly anyone.
And I bet this elite just kind of heard it from tales or rituals or part of the religious beliefs of the Sangheli.
Most likely. So you had the Historian elites that specifically had the legend about the Didact. So
I wouldn't be surprised if this was something that you probably don't hear any elites say.
Yeah.
Or any covenant say, really, unless it actually comes up in conversation. And this was probably the first time that we've heard it.
I mean, the way what he goes on to say, we can talk about it more when that gets up, but it's we'll get to that and I'll talk about it again.
Sure. So yeah, once we figure out that he's talking about the anomalies, the elite goes on to say that he was actually on one of the colonies for a diplomatic solution. Or not a solution, diplomatic mission, as BB translated. So this is obviously one elite. I guess it could have been an elite under Thelvadem if he was on a diplomatic mission on a human colony.
Yeah, most likely it's Thel. So I think in Thel's waypoint profile it says by 2558 Thel is basically he's the interim leader of the Sangheli, and basically entirely in control of Sanghelios.
At least those who are deciding to stand with him.
Yeah. But it's basically he is the powerhouse. His faction, the Swords of Sanghelios, are the majority of the Sangheli at that point. Or at this point, so.
Right. So, being on a diplomatic mission, he saw the event happen. He was badly injured, but he survived and walked away from it. He couldn't describe it, but he goes on speaking back in Sangheli tongue, and BB translates saying he was ranting about some demon desecrating the holy site. And obviously, the only demon that we really know of is the Master Chief. Yeah. So obviously, the Master Chief was there, and the elite goes on to say that with what humans are doing and Chief desecrating the holy site, there are consequences to these things that are happening.
Yeah, and that's what I was talking about briefly a moment ago. It's like the way he talks about it, it's like the Guardian is the consequence, almost like they might be seen as something like these, almost like perhaps guardian angel or angels of some kind, the equivalent of angels. These guys that, you've gone against the gods. We're going to rain down holy terror upon you.
Yeah, so it's one of those oh crap kind of moments.
Yeah.
But as far as, so we've all seen the commercials of the one that got released last week was Chief running through one of the colonies, running towards one of the Guardians as it's coming out of the ground. So that'd be the same spot where this elite got picked up. So this is obviously probably a few weeks afterwards.
Probably.
And this Sangheli was there and saw the Chief.
If we assume that it's the amount of time passing from episode to episode is weekly, but I don't know. That's probably not the case.
I think this one. I think these last few have been days.
Yeah, so maybe we're into November of 2558 within the episodes.
Yeah, it could be.
But as we notice, later on, trying not to skip ahead too much, but they must be relatively close to wherever they picked up that Sangheli from, given what we know about the ship later on. We learn about the ship later on. Unless the Sangheli got away and then happened to come across them.
It's possible they could have taken his ship or something like that if he was in a small transport.
Yeah. Maybe bolted it onto their own. Needed to close a couple hull pieces.
Yeah, used it to patch up some of their ship needs and whatnot. Yeah. It wouldn't surprise me. So the elite goes on to say how the chief can't save us, and there are more of these events that are going to happen, many more, and that this is just the beginning. And then he dies, last breath, saying that this is only the beginning. You could have kind of seen that one coming, just a bit.
Yeah, I mean, the way they described his injuries, I pretty much figured he wasn't long for this world.
Yeah.
Well, it makes me wonder how long it was since he was captured and sitting in that cell to them getting dropped off in the cell and him talking to Maya about everything that happened with the events and the anomalies.
So that's what kind of got me puzzled too. It's almost like he was on the planet when the anomaly happened.
Yeah, so he was.
Because, on the same planet as Maya.
No, I don't think it would have been.
Because
if you saw the chief, because we know the chief was on Meridian.
Well, that's the rub. As
Wasn't
badly
Conrad's
as
point
this,
on Meridian?
No, Conrad's point is its own colony.
Yeah. The point of the fact, the damage that this elite has received, and the fact that Jackal ship has no slipspace drive, which we'll talk about here in a little bit, he only would have lived a few hours. His leg is basically blown off and has not been treated. The wound has not been sealed, so he's been bleeding out. And they make the comment that he's basically sitting in a pool of his own blood. So I'm thinking this guy it wouldn't take long for him to bleed out.
But it's one of those things where, like, if that's the case in the time frame, then wouldn't that mean there would have been another event? Well, I guess the time frame could have been short enough from when Maya heard the news and was sent out to go find Ari, and then the point where she's on the ship. I guess it could be a short enough time frame to where that could be possible.
And based on what we heard in episode 1, when she was brought into Midnight, it had been like a day or so since the attacks.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously we know Oni has very, very capable small transport, so who knows, maybe we're just like a day or two after those. It's really hard to figure out, who knows. Maybe Sangheli are just really, really, really tough.
Well, yeah, they are, but I don't know. It just doesn't seem like he would have had time to travel from another planet, but I mean, it's possible. Yeah. With the timeline we're talking, it's possible that he had come from Meridian, where he would have seen the chief, or he could just be referencing the demons, because that's what they regard all the Spartans as demons.
Yeah, but all the Spartans were on Meridian.
But he could have just been referring to, because later on it says not even your demon can save you.
Yeah.
So it's. I mean, I guess I could see probably making it a day or so with that injury, but it just. I'm thinking that he's pretty fresh as far as injured.
Yeah. Like, I could see maybe that it wasn't as bad of an injury initially, and then maybe when he was captured. I was like, if he was moving at any significant speed and then, stopped, like assuming he did get on it, that he was on Meridian, got on a ship and was traveling along, and then for whatever reason wasn't in Slipspace when he was when he was passing through this system, and then but just at relativistic speeds, and then got captured. If he got stopped like Maya's ship did, mm-hmm. and wasn't prepared for that, that could have potentially made the injury significantly worse than it was.
It's just the way he described it. It sounded like that the event caused the injury.
Yeah,
yeah.
I'm saying definitely... like maybe it caused the initial injury, and then his capture made it worse. Because for the sake of his honor, he would never want to admit that a Kig-Yar caused him any injury at all.
Well, and depending on what kind of ship he had, it could have been another thing too, where if he was able to get to his ship, he was probably trying to patch himself up on the ship. And then whenever he did get stopped, anything that he was doing to try to help himself, and when they just threw him in the corner, like, there was no way for him to actually kind of finish whatever he was trying to do to help either band-aid off or whatever to his leg. So that could be another reason why too.
Of course, I don't think the writers really expect us to think about that too much either. So
true. Anyway, the elite's dead.
Well, but I think in a way though, because if he was there on a, I mean, we're going down a rabbit hole, I know, but if he was there on a diplomatic mission, and the chief was there, and this whole thing about Chief is like the whole thing that's been going on is Chief is activating these things, and he's wreaking havoc across the colonies. He's off on the deep end, totally out of Oni control, which I think we know is likely not the case, but it is kind of very coincidental that Chief is there when elites are there on a diplomatic mission, and these guardians are coming out of the ground, and it's one of those things that, I mean, we heard during the trailer last week that Oni is telling Locke that Chief is unleashing these things and causing all this destruction. So, I mean, Oni is freaking out just as much as anyone else is on this. So it's very, I don't know, a lot of the stuff's just kind of happening really close together. I mean, obviously we don't know specifically behind why that elite is there, but I don't think it's any kind of small coincidence that there's a lot of stuff that happened on Meridian at the same time. Anyways, food for thought. So
you just had to do food, didn't you?
I didn't even think about it that way, no, but
sorry. I just happened to look at the screen when you said that.
I'll say that's what Todd's here for, to remind you of the worst things.
Fair enough.
Someone's got to fill in that spot for Crash while he's not here.
Hey, everybody's got to have a job.
Yeah. So Maya goes on to say that even if all the stuff that the elite said was true about this is just the beginning, that there are going to be more events, and that the chief can't do anything to save humanity, there is nothing that they could do in their current situation, because as far as she knew, in less than an hour, they were going to start taking them out one by one and doing whatever off with their heads, or however the ship mistress decides to dispose of people or kill them. And she was just like, there was nothing that they could do. They were pretty much going to die. And BB says that this might not be the best time, but while you guys might not be able to save yourselves, we can at least try to save the rest of humanity and get the data that's on that data chip back to Oni. So BB's like, give me the data and I'll relay it back to Oni so they can actually figure out the useful data on the chip and figure out what they can do about it to help protect humanity. And Mashak obviously chimes in and says, whoa, you expect us to just hand over the data and just let them bury the truth like they've always done? Because Mashak obviously doesn't trust Oni at all. And BB kind of...
Can't imagine why.
No, not really. BB retorts by saying intelligence is a elaborate tapestry, something along those lines, some fancy words, and that they would need to correlate all the data that was on the chip with all the information that Oni had to figure out what was true and what wasn't. And
they need to hunt the truth themselves. Dun dun dun.
Huntception.
Yeah. Hold on, let me get my Inception button. No.
Even with being able to send the data to Oni, Maya still says that there's nothing they can do because they're about to die. But Bostwick finally speaks up, and she hadn't said a word ever since the Jackal stared her down when they were being dragged along through the ship, about to go to the airlock to be sucked out into space. And she actually has a moment of strong character. She goes on to say how Pharaoh or Maya said that at some point you got to fight for something bigger than yourself. And regardless of what happens, they need to tell everyone the truth so that everyone has a chance, that they owe it to themselves to actually make an attempt to save humanity instead of worrying about them on the brink of dying. And Maya goes into like a little monologue while Bostwick is saying all this, and how she just is really impressed that even though she completely lied to Bostwick, that Bostwick knows that she is an Oni operative and that Pharaoh was all a fake, that she still believes in some of the fundamental things that Pharaoh said and that she firmly believed in. And unfortunately, at that point, that's where they actually come and take Bostwick. Their time is up right as she's done with that speech. But at that point, it kind of gives Maya the kick that she needs to actually start to do something. So as they take Bostwick away, and they don't know where they're taking her away, Maya starts to look for a way out of the cell. She notices that the shield door is pretty... It looks like it's up to snuff. There's nothing like...
It's not flickering.
Right. It's acting like it should be. It's been well maintained compared to the rest of the ship. But compared to the energy shield, the walls look really patched up, really out of shape. So she starts following one of the cracks on the walls and starts to peel away or yank away at it and finds a energy conduit and comes up with an idea. So she asks BB, first Mashak says, "Oh, we're going to die by radiation now too."
Ever the optimist.
Yeah, I know, right?
Hey, pessimism is underrated. If ever you're wrong, you're never disappointed.
I guess that's one way to look at it, yes.
Yep.
Doesn't always help, though. So Maya asks BB if the energy conduit can transfer information, and BB says theoretically yes. And she goes on to say, well, that means if I attach you to it, and BB's like, well, okay, there's reason why this is an atrocious idea. First, you could possibly die. Second, I could possibly die. And third...
And you got to appreciate that he goes for Maya first. Shows some concern.
Yeah. A little bit of concern just to make Maya feel happy, I think. But yeah, concern nonetheless. Are we really doing a Half-Life 3 confirmed in the chat right now? Really?
Yes. Yes. He brought up 3. I have to do it. It's a natural
Fair
law
enough.
of the universe.
Fair enough. A blue Spartan in there with the Illuminati. Yeah, good job.
Yep.
And third, the UNSC strictly forbids any UNSC AI interaction with Covenant ships.
Now this, I have to comment on that part. We've seen AI do this very regularly, including BB himself. So...
Well, you got to understand, he really does not want to do this.
Like, yeah, I can understand he's possibly lying about that, but it's still kind of bothered me just a little bit. But,
well, it could be an actual rule that BB chooses to ignore.
Well, see, then a lot of AI have been ignoring that. Like Cortana interfaced with Covenant systems many times. Like, granted,
well, you have to look at the type of AI that are doing it too. Yeah. Like BB and Cortana are infiltration specialists.
Yeah.
So, yeah. I mean, the reason he is bringing it up is because he really does not want to do this.
Yeah, obviously.
Yeah.
It's a minor annoyance at best.
Yeah. And I like Maya's response as he's stating all this.
She's like, uh-huh.
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 Mm-hmm.
And I love how BB responds, and it's like, and since you're walking over to the conduit and there's no physical way for me to stop you, I guess this is going to happen anyways. And she's like, yeah.
As BB
she's
said,
like, uh-huh.
Uh-huh.
As BB said in an earlier episode, I am but a lapel.
Yeah.
I cannot.
And I love the lines that they have for BB are just perfect. Because I really like the next couple of lines. He says, what's a few million volts between his friends?
Mm-hmm. And then once more onto the breach.
And then massive lightning bolt. She gets she said she gets kind of, the first bolt felt like a knock in the back of the head, and the second one threw her across the room. But as far as she's concerned, her heart was still beating and she was alive. And BB was okay too. Of course, in his usual self, he says, while that worked, it still was not a good idea. Luckily for her...
He's not wrong.
Yeah. A few million volts could have definitely just taken out any circuitry that was in that lapel. The fact that he was still there was very surprising.
Yeah, that's pretty robust lapel pin.
No kidding. So they find that Bostwick is on a level, or has been taken to 2 levels up. They didn't really say this happened, but I'm assuming it happened anyway. They got the energy shield to drop, but Maya told Mashak to go back to the hangar to wait for them in the ship, while she went and looked for Bostwick. So she kind of goes through the ship trying to not make a sound because, as she points out, one of the reasons why the Covenant had Jackals assigned as scouts because of their amazing senses. So their sense of sight, hearing, smell, all of that. So she was trying to carefully walk through the halls of the ship, try not to make too much noise. And with all the junk that was around anyways, it was kind of hard to. She got to this point where there was an open door, and she had to get past it to get up to a maintenance shaft. But she knew that if she went past it, that all the Jackals in the room would see her. So she slowly peeks her head around and sees all the Jackals clumped together in circles. A few moments later, this bigger Jackal that looked maybe like a commander went around with a ladle and a big pot and started scooping out rations. And that's the nice little picture of what we have on the stream for everybody.
Jackal soup.
Yeah, Jackal stew with flesh and eyes and claws and
eyes to stare right at you as you eat.
Okay, that's enough. The picture is grossing enough as it is. So
come on, you've never had fish head?
Nope.
Neither have I.
Okay.
I pass up on that every time.
All right, good. So she actually waits for the last group to get served. So they're all distracted at that point. They're all focused on snarling down all the food. So she gets by just fine, walks up the maintenance ladder, and when she gets to the top to the 2 floors up, she stops because she's has a feeling of what she's seeing is a massive Covenant invasion. But because there's like brutes and elites and a bunch of different Covenant up there. But turns out they're staked to the wall. They're not moving. And she kind of describes the room as kind of a history of the Human Covenant war through taxidermy.
Yeah, just as she says that they're not moving, I get this chill run down my back. Like, this not good.
It was this was one of those points where I'm like, oh, wow, this is actually very disturbing. And for being just an audio podcast, the way that they actually present the detail, the way they articulate it in here is so lifelike.
Yeah. The whole podcast, it almost feels like a Halloween episode. You know, the creepy crawly terror movie type setup, which I mean fits with the Jackals, but just the excruciating detail they're going to in this podcast.
And I think that's one of the things that really makes it so engaging and so good is because you do get that sense of, okay, you're adequately describing what I'm supposed to be experiencing. And it just makes it that much better in terms of the whole podcast experience. Just the amount of detail that they put into all this is just jaw-dropping.
Mm-hmm.
It's just unbelievable. But as she's in the room with all the aliens staked on the wall, she also sees there's some humans up there too. She spots Bostwick being prepped for some kind of dissection.
To be added to the beautiful mural that covers the walls. The latest chapter in this history through taxonomy.
With the nice sound of an air saw going off in the background.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. It kind of reminded me of one of those like Dremel tools.
Mm-hmm.
That was kind of the thing I got out of it. And a plasma torch or plasma cutter in there as well. So once she spots Bostwick, she decides that she needs to figure out how to take out this Jackal before it decides to lay a hand on Bostwick. So the thing that she picks up is a brute skull. So a little bit of griffball or oddball here in Tell the Truth. And she sneaks up on the Jackal, takes him by surprise on the first whack. Jackal was still standing, although completely taken aback. managed to give Maya the opportunity to continue to beat him until he was knocked unconscious, for all we know. And she was able to untie Bostwick and start getting the hell out of there. As they were running through the ship, they got to dead ends and got turned around, but they eventually got to the hallway where they could see the hangar at the end of the hallway. By the time they got to the hangar, before they got to the ramp of the dropship that they had, they got stopped by the ship mistress and other accompanying Jackals. So they were almost free, but they got stopped. Dun, dun, dun.
Talk about putting the brakes on.
Just a bit, yeah. And the ship mistress was like, "You lie, you are no value. This is all the waste of my time." So at that point, they're like, well, this kind of sucks. And Maya's trying to think on her feet and thinks of, okay, there's well, we may not have the credits. There is some real value that we could have. So she begs the question, why haven't they gone to Slipspace yet? And the Kig-Yar response, being kind of like the pirate response, is like, the ship is unbeatable. There's no reason for us to run. And no one can escape from us either. So Maya kind of pushes the issue again. Why would you attack a ship and then just stick around? Like, I'm betting you're lying and that you actually have a problem with your Slipspace drive. And again, the ship mistress, Churzal, goes right up to Maya. She doesn't flinch, but she doesn't breathe either. And she's like, okay, you fix it. That's the only value you have. And Maya's like, okay, but it comes at a price. Our freedom and our ship. Few long moments go by, and the ship mistress says, you fix, you free. And that's the end.
Well, and during that exchange, BB is talking in Maya's ear, saying that he examined the Slipspace drive, and it's not damaged, it's basically just been turned off or locked out by security measures from when the Covenant fell.
Well, that's what he thinks, yeah. We don't know that for sure, but that's what he thinks happened.
But that's what it looks like from his point of view, which is he's been in the system, so...
So, yeah. So they're safe for now, once again, until next episode. And I have a sneaking feeling, because they're Jackals, it's going to be one of those things where they fix it, and they're going to try to kill him. Or BB just takes over the whole ship and
vents a few sections. And
yeah, that's actually what I'm thinking, is BB takes over the ship and just, evacuates all the oxygen out of all the parts that they're not standing in.
Yeah. Pulls an Ascendant Justice.
Take out some of the bad air, too, while you're at it.
Yeah.
Yeah. It stinks in here. Why don't we freshen things up?
It'd be cool if he had some kind of witty remark to do that with, too.
Oh, I'm sure he would.
Oh, he will. If he does it, he will.
Yeah.
Yeah, those are the two different outcomes I'm thinking could happen. Is either they repair the engines and then it's going to be a mad dash for them to try to get back to the dropship, or they're just going to take over the ship. I have a feeling it's going to be take over the ship.
Yeah.
We'll have to see next week.
Another 7 days.
I know, right?
Yep.
Headbang, headbang, headbang.
All right. Well, it's been a little bit of a shorter episode, not as much to talk about, not too complex for this week. Next week will probably be a little more action-packed, so maybe a little bit longer to talk about. But thank you, everyone, for tuning in on the live stream who decided to come over onto Twitch. And thank you for downloading us if you've downloaded us through the iTunes or some other RSS feed aggregator or podcast subscription. Thank you very much for listening. Remember, you can check us out over on Thursdays for our regular podcast. And this week we are doing our Last Light podcast. So we will be talking about that in spoiler territory. So if you have not read the book, I highly suggest you do not tune into the live stream or listen to the episode yet until you have read the book. Or if you really don't care and kind of want to get the high level overview of what we'll be talking about, then go ahead and listen if that's something that you want to do.
Spoilers are fun. They make everything better.
They can be fun, I guess, if you don't care about them too much. That sounds kind of awkward. But yeah, so just a fair warning for those who may be interested in tuning in on Thursday. We will be talking about Last Light. We will be talking about spoiler stuff as far as the story in the book goes, so tread lightly if you want to be there. Make sure you check out our social networks. We're on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, all that fun stuff. So please make sure you go check out our YouTube videos. We recently got to go to a Halo 5 press event, so we have some campaign footage. We have some Breakout, Warzone, Arena, and a couple of Halo 5 menu stuff. I have one more video that I'm putting out, which will probably come out tomorrow, and that's of all the rec packs that I got during my playtime at the media event. So just our last video of that, and then we have some other stuff that we have planned coming down the road also. We do have a few new staff members that we are bringing on, and we'll be introducing you guys to them pretty soon. So stay tuned for some of that. And also make sure you check out YouTube come Halo 5, and also Twitch, where we actually have a little bit more aggressive stream schedule. And as far as game nights are concerned, we'll be doing regular nights of Warzone, Arena, and opening of rec packs, because that is going to very much be a thing, I'm pretty sure. So make sure you check all those out. And please make sure you check out Toa Freak and all of his videos over at his channel, Halo Canon. He does some excellent lore type videos as far as Hunt the Truth recaps, does some recaps on the Halo Canon stuff that Grim Brother 1 puts out on the Halo blog, and he has some pretty good series that are actually worth watching in preparation for Halo 5. So he has little exposés on all the team members of Blue Team and Fire Team Osiris, which I highly recommend you guys go watch. And he's been putting out some other content too, so make sure you go check him out over there on YouTube. And also check out the podcast network. We are part of a conglomerate of gaming specific shows, so you can find that at podka.st for shows like Guardian Radio, Critscast, The Learning Cliff, Work in Progress, and How to Murder Time. So please make sure you go check out that network if you're looking for some other podcasts to listen to, or if you're interested in any one of the games that they cover. They are definitely good podcasts to go listen to. And we will be back next week on Tuesday for our next episode of Hunt the Truth, and again on Thursday for our Last Light discussion. So thank you everyone for tuning in, and we will see you guys next week. Try not to vomit over the image of the Kig-Yar soup.
Go Team Chief.
And be sure to keep on shining.